Shalom everyone and Chodesh Tov, Shavua Tov. We are learning today Parashat Ḥukat, the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 19, verse 1. This is a very, very, very busy parasha, very powerful parasha, very important, and especially that this year it coincides directly with the beginning of the month of Cancer, Tammuz. So let us see the connection. So the parasha is talking about a few topics. The first one, which is the most, I don't know if it's the most famous, because there are a few other famous issues in this parasha. So let us just describe a few topics. The first topic, it's just in the beginning. This is the beginning of the parasha, the story or the law of the red heifer, which is it is presented by many scholars and commentators as the epitome of illogical mitzvah, although if you read it carefully, it is not. It is very logical if you study from the Kabbalistic point of view. Very logical. So what is that issue of the illogical that it is emphasized over here? We will see soon. So we have, as we said, the red heifer. The red heifer, basically, the red heifer was a very important mitzvah in the temple work. You could not get into the vicinity of the temple itself unless you have been purified by water that had red heifer ashes inside. And that purification was essential to the temple work. So, but this is only a very small part of the parasha. That part is the whole chapter of chapter 19. Chapter 20 is the death of Miriam. But what does it mean? It means, chapter 20, verse 1, ויבואו בני ישראל כל העדה מתברצין בחודש הראשון. And the whole congregation came to Midbar Tzin on the first month, and they settled in Kadesh, Vatamacha Miriam, and Miriam died over there. In an instant, within one verse, we completed all the laws and the story that belong to the first period of after the Exodus, which means a period of about less than 2 years after the Exodus, maybe a year and a half, that from the Exodus till now, the whole parashot of half of the book of Exodus, the whole book of Leviticus, and the book of Bamidbar till now, they are just discussing those months after the Exodus. Chapter 20, verse 1, we are skipping. It is like you have 38 years later, or 40 years later. The 40 years in the desert are over. Those people who had to die in the desert already died. And when it says the whole congregation, whoever survived the 40 years, which means did not participate in the sin of the spies, now came, and remember, this is the end of the 40 years in the desert, which means we have passed those 40 years after the sin of the spies. Miriam passes on, and then since all the water were thanks to the miracle of Miriam, the water coming out of the stone. Miriam was a great prophet, and that was her miracle. And there were no water. Verse 2, chapter 20. ויקהלו על משה ועל אהרון, and they ganged over Moses and Aaron, and they fought with Moses and Aaron. And they said, we wish we died with our brothers in front of God. Like 40 years didn't pass, same story. And why did you bring the congregation of God to the desert to die there, us and our cattle? Like nothing changed. The same speech, the same problem. Lama elitunu mitzrayim? Why did you bring up from Egypt to bring us to this place, evil place? It's not a place to plant. All the promises, where are the promises? So 40 years later, and nothing really changed. There's still those people. They are bitter. They just want to go back to Egypt. They simply do not share the vision. So the Nachmanides in other places said, was that the whole nation of Israel? No. But enough people were there to spoil the atmosphere. And then Moses speaks, and God speaks to Moses. And because I said this is not the most famous story, the red heifer, here's the most famous story. And God says to Moses, take the staff, bring the whole congregation in front of the stone, the rock that during the life of Miriam was giving water to the whole congregation. And you speak to the rock, and it will give its water, and you get the water out of the rock. And you give water to everybody. So Moses takes a staff, and he didn't speak to the rock. He hits the rock with some kind of a bitterness. And because of that, and water come out, and everybody drinks, and we have few quiet days. And then verse 12, chapter 20, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe ve'Aaron, and God says to Moses and Aaron, Yan lo imanetem bi lakdisheni, because you didn't trust me, you didn't have faith in me to sanctify me in front of the eyes of the whole Israel, children of Israel, therefore you were not going to bring this nation to the land. So the famous story that says that Moses and Aaron could not lead the nation into the promised land. Now the next story is they are moving up. Now, if we're talking about they are the same place, around the same place they've been before the sin of the spies, Parashat Shlach Lecha, a few weeks ago. Now, they were 40 years. They were going around the desert. Now they're coming back to the same place, the gateway to the Holy Land. Now, instead of going up north in the Negev to Hebron and into the midst of the country, they are going around. So they're going to, on the eastern side of the River Jordan, in this case, eastern side of the Dead Sea, and they are asking Edom for permission to pass by so they can enter the promised land. They promised, we're not going to do anything without your permission. If we drink water, we'll pay you for that. Edom doesn't agree. No, you're not going to pass through our country. So they go around and they go backwards and they go back to Kadesh. They come to Hoahar, and now Aaron passes on. So with Miriam passing on, Aaron passing on in this parasha, and then the Canaanites attack after they hear that their protection, Aaron, is gone. And now everybody is complaining again that this is chapter 21, verse 4. Now the serpents, the snakes attack them, and they simply, a lot of people die. So Moses is asking for health, for healing, and God is telling Moses, chapter 21, verse 8, and God said to Moses, make yourself a serpent, a copper serpent. Put it on a banner, and whoever is bitten by a snake will look at the banner of the copper snake and will live. Till today, the copper snake is the symbol of pharmacy, medicine around the world. And now they're coming back and they're trying to go through Moab. You know, if you look at the map, or those days, the ancient map of Israel, you see that you have the River Jordan in the middle, and the bottom you have, on the south of the River Jordan, you have the Dead Sea. On the east side of the Red Sea and south of it, you have Edom. Above Edom, you have Moab, just across the northern part of the Red Sea. And so they try to go through the territory of Moab. So Moab does not allow them to pass through, so they go even north of Moab, now north of Moab, all the way from the Dead Sea, east of the Dead Sea, the top north of it, all the way to what is today southern part of Syria, the Golan Heights, and the Horan, Bashan. Now it's a place of the Amorites. The Amorites do not allow the Israelite to pass through. They're not just they don't allow, they attack Israel and force them into a war. Moses and Israel win the war, and they take the whole eastern bank of the River Jordan, the whole country that is today Jordan and south of Syria, from Damascus to the south, the Golan Heights, the Gilad, the Bashan, the Horan, all the way to Deri. And that's the end of the story. Now, how do we read this parasha? So many stories. What's in it for us? Do we have to know the geography of the eastern south part of the land of Israel? Is that for it? I don't think so. So what is that? So first of all, we have to understand that Parashat Ḥukat is always somehow in the beginning of the month of Tammuz. Today is the new moon, the first day of the month of Tammuz. And we know that according to Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation by Abraham the patriarch, there are two letters in the Hebrew alphabet that are the DNA of each of the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 months of the calendar. And the two letters, one of them is the letter of the month, and one is the letter of the planet, because every month has a letter of its own according to the book of formation, and every planet has a letter of its own, and the force, the power behind that letter is the energy that created that force, that zodiac sign or planet, basically in the heavens, they are symbolizing that cosmic force. It's not that they are the cosmic force. They are symbolizing the cosmic force. So let us understand that. The two letters for the month of Tammuz are the letter Chet. Chet is for the sign of Cancer, the month of Tammuz, and the letter for the moon. The moon is the ruling planet of the month of Tammuz. The letter for the moon is the letter Taf. In the name of the parasha, Ḥukat, we have Chet for Tammuz, Taf for the moon. And we have the letter Kuf in between them. So let's see what is the Zohar talking about. I'll give you a little bit of introduction. In the Jewish tradition, the moment we start the first day of Tammuz, which is also the beginning, the official beginning, the astrological beginning of the summer season, so we are talking about 2 months of judgment. Tammuz and Av are 2 months of judgment, Cancer and Leo. These are 2 months that are very, very much loaded by a lot of emotional energy. And the result is that we must be so careful not to lose our balance during these 2 months. So, as it is said, Kadma refuah lamaka, everywhere there is a chance or danger or high risk for us to lose it, the Creator created the remedy just in the same place that we will need it, which means what is that we read in the parashot of this period? The remedy for the judgment that we are going to experience in the coming 2 months. Why does God have to give us judgment? And the answer is that God is not giving us judgment. Judgment is something totally else. You know, the days of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages are over. So we can let go of that and can rethink our definition of the word judgment. And let us understand that because the Zohar explains this to us. In order to do that, we need to go to okay. In the Zohar of Parashat Ḥukat, about Parashat Ḥukat, verse 17, we have an explanation that will restructure our understanding of what is judgment. אלא חוקת ודאי, והוא קימנה. ה' ד' הוות וה' אתמר, אבל ת' הוא ד', ונון מחובר כחדה. ונון ה' דאתמר, נון עמי אקרי הכי בנון. אלא כמה דאמר, ולא תונו איש את עמיתו, דהשתה היא בהנפאה נהירין, ועבדה הונאה לבני נשה. לוותר מחיה כחביה, ושצי וקטל, ואמרה לא פעלתי אבן. והדהך יקרי בנון דאתמר עלי, תף כולה כחדה דלת נון. דלת נון, נון ריש. ריש ודלת חד מילה הוא. ועטוון גליפיני נון חוק ותף וכולה חד מילה. First of all, in order to understand the whole parasha, we need to understand something about the wisdom of the Hebrew holy letters. So, the Zohar is teaching us as follows. It says, Zot Ḥukat, that's the name of the parasha, Zot Ḥukat Torah, that's how the parasha is starting. Zot Ḥukat, Zot, we are talking about Sefirat Malchut. Sefirat Malchut means the aspect of the creation, which is the creation, is a huge something, okay? That something has a part that we cannot comprehend, which is the Creator, His intention, His light. We have no idea how to perceive, understand, or even contemplate on that because this is endless power, okay? So this is the Creator. But the creation, which is the female aspect, because it is the recipient, the vessel, we are part of the creation. This is something we can somehow have some grasp of. Now, and that is called Sfirat Malchut. And the word Zot is Sfirat Malchut, which means the creation, which is the manifestation of the will of the Creator. And the word Ḥukat, of course, it is also about Malchut and about judgment. How do we know that? So we have in the word Ḥukat, we have the letter Tav. And the letter Tav says the Zohar as follows. The letter Tav, the Hebrew letter Tav, the way you write it in the legal, you know, there are two ways to write basically a Hebrew letter. One is the way that is the kosher way when you're talking about writing in a Torah parchment or a mezuzah or tefillin, which is the way you want to connect to the supreme forces of the universe, and you want to bring those forces into action in the physical world. And this is when you write on the parchment with the right intentions and rules and so on. And there's also the way you write in order to communicate with other people or write your memory, stuff like this. In here, you don't have rules for the shape of the letters. We are talking about the original rules for the shape of the letters. And the original rules for the shape of the letter, how do you write the letter Tav? So the Zohar is teaching us, you write first the letter Dalet, and then on the left of it, touching it, you have the letter Nun. Dalet and Nun, that makes a Tav. Okay, now we learn the meaning of the word, the letter Dalet. You know, we have a whole class just about it. But we know that Tav is Dalet and Nun together. And we'll explain the Dalet and the Nun. So first of all, why Nun? Why the letter Nun is called Nun? So the traditional explanation is Nun. Nun in Aramaic is a fish, and it looks like a fish. It doesn't, but maybe in the original evolutionary process, it looked like a fish. Okay, however, but the meaning is different. When we're talking about why the Nun looks like a Nun and why it's called a Nun, the Zohar says the word Nun is coming from the word Ona'ah. Ona'ah means basically cheating, forging, something like this. As it says, "V'lo tonu ish tamito." The mitzvah, do not cheat each other. The letter Nun is from cheating. כי אתה היא בפנים מאוד, אבל ועושת הונאה לבני אדם, because the Nun, you know, how do you cheat? You come to a person with a smile, you really, you know, that's a sales pitch. You're selling something that doesn't worth it. But you're making such a show, people think its worth is much higher than what it really is. So they pay you the amount you're asking for, because that's called to cheat. Okay? Now, or hoax. כי אתה, אבל, ועושה הונאה לבני אדם. The Nun is about cheating. Because first it shows your happy face and then bites you like a snake. It doesn't say so, but snake in Hebrew is nachash, starting with the letter Nun. Also, the letter Nun looks a little bit like a snake that is killing. And that's why it's called with the letter Nun. Daled. Daled is like the letter Resh. They're very, very similar to each other, except from the letter Daled is a letter Resh with the letter Yud that is stuck on the corner. You know, the way you write the letter Resh, like this. It's like, you know, you have two sides, two lines, one like this. And then if you stick a Yud to the corner, you get the letter Dalet. Okay, so both of them mean something very similar: poverty, lack. Dalet, dalut, it's poverty. Reish, rish in Hebrew means poor. Both means poor, says the Zohar. And when you write the letter Taf, and why the letter Taf is important, because we are in the beginning of the month of Tammuz, and the month of Tammuz is starting, the word Tammuz starts with the letter Tav, Tam, the end of. The letter Tav symbolizes the end. The Hebrew alphabet, Aleph to Tav. Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's also the letter that created the planet Moon. Okay, so it's also the letter of the month of Tammuz together. So we have here a game, like a game of hints. So what is the letter Tav? Says the Zohar, this is a connection of, first of all, the month Tammuz starts with the letter Tav. The planet Moon is ruled by the letter Tav. The letter Tav is also the end of things, which means judgment. End is judgment. And it is symbolizing all what judgments are about. And what is it? It says, Kitziur o Taf, the shape of the letter Taf is the connection of Chibur Shtei Otiyot, Dalet veNun. It's a connection of the two letters, Dalet and Nun. Now, what do they stand for? Before that, we just spoke about the, okay, so it talks about poverty. So it's not always bad. If you're not hungry, if you're not feeling hunger, you cannot achieve. People always feel drowsy and satiated, like, I don't need anything, I have enough, leave me alone, just want to stay, leave me in peace. They're not the great achievers. The great achievers are the one that feel the thirst, the hunger you need for that. The letter Taf or the letter Resh or the letter Daled, when you study Kabbalistic astrology, you realize wherever these letters appear, it means hunger. Even the letter Nun. So we can find the letter Daled and Nun in Scorpio. We know Scorpio are not complacent people. They have hunger and thirst for knowledge, for power, for greatness, for control, whatever. You cannot say they are laid back. Why? Daled and Nun. Daled Nun, ambition, lack. You want, so you can focus that need towards materialistic fulfillment, which is power, money, stuff like this, and you just get high and by, but you're not complacent. Or you can focus it on a spiritual gain, then you become great leaders on the spiritual aspect. Same thing with the letter Resh. We can find the letter Resh in the planet Mercury, Kochav, and which is about, again, it's not laid back. If wherever you have planet Mercury in your chart, it means that you have hunger for knowledge, for connection, for information, for achievement, for movement. You can't stay just there. Okay? That was about the letter Resh. The letter Dalet is the planet Mars, Madim, which is the planet it's always driving towards for war, fighting for something. You can fight for, lost causes, for materialistic, elusive ideas, but you can fight also for holiness. So again, whenever you have Mars in your chart, that's a push, that's a drive. So here we have the letter Tav, that is Dalet and Nun together. What makes, so now the Zohar wants to teach us deeper about, so if Dalet is judgment and Nun is judgment, what's the difference between the two judgments? The two drives. And the answer is like this. Here Rabbi Ashlag is explaining to us. So Reish and Dalet, they're similar in their energy. They're also similar almost in their shape. As we said before, the only difference is both look almost the same. A lot of people, if you don't really know Hebrew, you won't tell the difference. But the letter Yud that is sticking over there to the corner, that's what makes a difference. It's a big difference. However, both Shtehen Morot al Dalut Vaniut, both show about poverty and lack. And that is Dinim Dedchoa, judgments that are called the male aspect of judgment. Okay, and what does it mean? The male aspect of judgment is, let's see where he's explaining it the best. Okay. דינים דתחורה, דהיינו נמשכים מקו שמאל להיותו חוכמה בלי חסדים. Yes, it is, when we're talking about poverty, need, lack, people are not hungry, they cannot achieve. You don't have ambition, you cannot achieve. Neither materialism or spirituality. Both, you need to excel. In both, you need the hunger. Okay? The point is like this, and we have to understand really clear what I'm saying over here. The fact that you want to achieve, and we discussed it in previous parashot, this is not enough. It's a must. It's a necessary condition. It's a must condition to any moving forward. The hunger and the need are essential, okay? Essential. They're not bad, they're not evil, but this is judgment. Why? Because when we are just focused on that judgment that we are dealing with, that we're discussing right now, okay? This judgment is the judgment that I want, I desire. But you have to remember essential rule. The moment that Tzimtzum happened, which is the initial action of the creation, this is basically the precursor of the Big Bang. Before the Tzimtzum, before the Big Bang, the whole universe was united in one point. No time, no space. Okay? Everything is one. The only way everything can be one is a one point. That's a point that science is talking about before the creation. Okay? That was the initial, or let's say the moment before the creation, the whole universe was in one point. Same thing in the teachings of Kabbalah, the whole universe started in one point. And what does it mean? There's no judgment because everything is one. There's no need. Because there's no need and no hunger, there's no time, there's no space. So there's no movement and nothing happens. Everything is perfect. No place for tikkun, no place to become a creator of our own. So then that oneness is being destroyed. And what came out is the creation that we see in the front of our eyes that is so full of all kinds of different aspects of the creation, colors, creatures, you just name it. No, it's endless. Now, in a universe like this, there is a movement. Why? Here you can have a lack. Here you can have a need. Here you can have hunger. Here you can have the ability to excel. Here you have the ability to turn the darkness into light and the bitter into sweet. Here you can make the project, the process of correction, of turning yourself into a mini creator. Each one of us, every human soul. However, there are rules, and the rules are very clear. Zot Ḥukat HaTorah. These are the rules. This is how the laws of the creations are working. So there are judgments, the male judgment, that's how they're called, dinim d'chora, male judgments. What does it mean, male? Male means the aspect of the creator. What is the creator? The male. What is the creation? The female. Why it's called male and female? Because the creator is the giver. The creation is the recipient. So when we say judgments of the male, it means that when we ask for the light, power, anything, the creator will never say no. Why? He's endless light. So whenever we say, I want, he gives. Why is that judgment? Because, as we said, after the Tzimtzum, the desire to receive cannot be a kosher vessel for receiving. Why? Because according to Ḥukat HaTorah, according to the laws of the universe, and that's what Ḥukat HaTorah means, the laws of the universe. According to the laws of the universe, we can understand one of them is called the law of affinity, which means similarities attract. And that means that if the creator is endless light of giving, endless light of life, endless light of fulfillment, endless light of everything, the vessel which means I want, I desire, is exactly the opposite side of the creation. This is endless giving, and this is finite receiving. Can they go together with each other? No affinity whatsoever. The two opposites of the creation. So when we say, I desire, I want, I have an ambition, in that moment, I create a huge contradiction according to the law of the universe. Why? I want, I desire, I must have this and that. I'm in that moment creating a huge contradiction. Why? Fulfilling that desire is impossible by universal law, because the endless light is only giving. The desire to receive is finite and receiving. This is light and this is darkness. And therefore, every time this happens, which means a human being is arousing inside himself passion, desire, need, hunger for anything, power, money, happiness, whatever, it's a contradiction. And what does that mean? Judgment. These two forces cannot be with each other without a clash. And a crash, same thing when you put the plus and minus of the electricity together, I'm talking about high voltage, like the voltage in your house. You put the plus and the minus together, it's a flash and a crash. Same thing. When we desire, when we want, when we aspire, when we are focused on our need, this is the letter Dalet or the letter Resh. What happens? Judgment. What does it mean, judgment? This cannot go on, which means the fact that we desire is not enough. Ambition, desire, huge lack and need are not enough in order to achieve. Because when you arouse those, only what is called simply in our language, selfish desire, egotism, ambition, this cannot go with the light. Sometimes you have a temporary success. Usually you have many stories that show what happens when a person is fully ambitious, selfish, egotistic, and he has a temporary success. You call it he sold his soul to Satan. What does that mean? It means there is a temporary flash, but there'll always be a crash. So if you want to bring it into a tale that you can explain also to a child, it means when you're very ambitious and very egotistic and very self-centered, it's like you selling your soul to Satan. Why? He will give you a momentary success. However, it will be ended as what we call the judgment of the male judgment. Why? The creator cannot say no. He is the ultimate giver. He has no any way of stopping or holding himself. So every time we humans awaken hunger and passion and desire, which is selfish, the light will come in. But then the judgment will arouse. Why? The moment the light enters the vessel, there will be a crash. I call it high and by, or the syndrome of the morning after. Yes, you can have an amazing high in the beginning of the night. You can be also feeling that you won all what you wanted, but there will always be the syndrome of the morning after. Why? It cannot stay. That's called the judgment, the male judgment. Why the male judgment? Because the light of the male, the creator, enters in, and our vessel cannot hold on to it. This is the law of the universe. Zot Ḥukat HaTorah. What will happen? The next thing, the reaction, the crash, is the judgment of the female, which is represented by the letter Nun. Nun is Nekeva, Nukba, female. Okay, Nun is the female judgment. Why? So what does it mean, the female judgment? So yes, the light of the Creator, when it comes in and we're not ready for it, that's a male judgment. When our reaction of pushing the light away, why? Because the vessel cannot hold on to that light. That's called the female judgment. Now, the female judgment has two aspects, which means that two ways judgment can be awakened by the vessel. One, automatic, which means you took it, it's too much for you, you fall apart, okay? You ate too much whatever, and then your digestive system is going crazy, okay? That's a female judgment. It's the vessel is incapable of dealing, and the reaction of the vessel, that's a female aspect. So either that will be involuntary reaction, that's the dark side. What does mean the dark side? You ate what you can't stand, what your digestive system cannot digest, and you have stomach ache, you have a reaction. The reaction is basically about shutting down the system. The first thing in the reaction, you can't eat anymore. Then you start to have horrible, maybe reactions like aches, diarrhea, all kinds of stuff like this. It's all about the body is trying to repel whatever created the inconvenience. That's in the physical. In the spiritual dimension, it's when when our soul is incapable of holding that light that we desired, that we had passion for, and there's an arousal, involuntary, automatic arousal of a shutdown, failure, depression, pressure. There was high pressure of a lot of light. Oh, I feel light, I feel hot, I feel in the groove, whatever it is, I feel the energy in my veins, I feel great. And then, poof, shut down. That's the female judgment. But that's the involuntary female judgment. But there's another female judgment. It's the voluntary female judgment. What does it mean? When a person is saying, I am in such a hunger, passion, desire, I want to feel high. However, I know that the law of the Torah, the law of the universe is you cannot just receive because you want it. That's not enough. You need to create another vessel. This vessel is the vessel that is called giving. Why giving is a judgment? Giving is a judgment. Why? Because, let's say, the first instant desire is, I want to have it. I want to have it for myself. If I am educated, spiritually educated, I know if you want to feel good, you have to make sure that other people feel good too. Which means, what do I do with my desire to feel great in that moment? Judgment. I delay my selfish fulfillment by transforming it into chesed, into doing good for others. Yeah, I want to make a lot of money. You want to make a lot of money? No problem. But you should give a great service to people, and they in return will give you their money by consent. They will be happy, you will be happy. So which means, but you can't get the money immediately. You can't just be driven by just the money. You need to replace the selfish desire for money or power or pleasure, and by first making something good for others. The energy you generate, we spoke about it in the previous parasha, the energy you generate is a result of your judgment. What does it mean, judgment? You create a judgment. You say, yes, I have passion, I have a desire, I have a hunger. I simply put the brakes on it. I changed the direction from above to below, from the light to the vessel, which is the judgment of Chokhmah, the main judgment, and I change it, I heal that by creating a different direction from me to you, from me to the other. I want to be happy, but first I'll make somebody else happy. That could be volunteering, being nice, loving and caring, simply giving service for the money somebody is going to give you. But what you're doing right now, you are activating female judgment. And that female judgment is going to heal the male judgment. And when that judgment is being healed, it means that the light of the Creator can come in. The female judgment that I created by choice, by awareness of grace, loving kindness. As I said, grace, loving kindness is, by the way, a kind of judgment. Why? Because I'm simply negating, denying my initial desire to receive for myself, and I transform that into giving to others. What did I do? I did judgment with my initial selfish desire. What happened? When I generated the light of sharing and giving, chesed, I created a new vessel. This vessel can contain the light of the Creator. It can contain the light that I wanted in the first place. And now comes the fulfillment. If you know the feeling, it's like you were busy thinking about yourself, busy thinking about, what about me? Why is it I don't have so-and-so? And then you realize there's a need, and you stop thinking about yourself, and you simply got out of yourself to be there for somebody else, emergency, somebody else's need. And you just do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you simply excel, out of yourself for somebody else. And then when you complete the mission and everybody's taken care of, and you are like exhausted, but you realize in the midst of the exhaustion, you are so happy like you didn't feel almost ever before. How come you're so happy? Because when you exhausted your body consciousness, when you exhausted the left column, when you exhausted the selfishness, when you exhausted the evil inclination, by being there for somebody else authentically and genuinely, you created a new vessel. You created, and that vessel is judgment. It is judgment because it's a vessel. But this is the antidote for the original judgment. It simply heals the selfishness. It heals the ambition. Ambition is not wrong, but when it's ambition for oneself alone, this is the terrible disease. It's so painful, it kills you because it's against the universal law. But when you turn it into devotion for others, for something greater, for a greater idea, it is a judgment, because what did you do to the original passion? You somehow converted it. You made judgment with it. Okay? You transformed it, eliminated it, used it up, and now you created a different vessel. And suddenly you feel this quiet inner peace of an amazing fulfillment, of a kind of a high. It's not the same high, because this high, no one can ever take away from you. It stays forever. I hope that I was not too complicated, but this is the law of the universe. Zot Ḥukat HaTorah. This is what the Torah is telling us. This is how the universe is structured. You cannot change these laws. That's why when we're starting these 2 months of Tammuz and Av, Cancer and Leo, which is the most loaded months with judgment. What does it mean? It's not bad. It means it's a very challenging time that if we, or when we really get the idea, it's all about healing all the judgments that inflicted us in this lifetime, past lifetime. We just get the idea. So if we understand that these 2 coming months are months of judgment, heavy judgment, but judgment means also the healing judgment. How do you heal judgment? With a good judgment. What's a good judgment? That instead of letting the judgment take over, you transform the negativity into positivity. That's also judgment. You arouse yourself into devotion, giving, caring, sharing. What are you doing? You're basically healing the original judgment. The original judgment means I want the light for myself. Yeah, the light will come in and turn you into ashes. That's why when we're talking about the Jewish history, things turn into ashes during this time. The death of the spies and the 40 years in the desert, the sin of the golden calf. It's all happened in this time. The destruction and the burning of first temple and the second temple. And the Bar Kokhba rebellion in 65 years later, after the second temple, the destruction. And the destruction of the Jewish community of Spain was the leading central community of the world Jewry at that time in 1492. All of that happened on the same dates during the months of Tammuz and Av. What does it mean? The fact that there are judgments, it doesn't turn it into evil. Evil is when we succumb to it. When we just give up on, like, that's the way it is. You know, they hate us, we'll hate them back. They made us victims, we'll be victims, we'll turn them into victims. Judgment is holding on till you heal it. How do you heal it? Okay, so now we see few ideas. In this parasha and in the coming parashot, all of them are about transforming judgment into victory. First of all, the red heifer. What is the red heifer? So everybody says, no, this is illogical mitzvah, and you have no answer to it. Okay? So why is it that Rashi himself, and that he brings from the Talmud, from all kinds of midrashim and so on, all kinds of explanations about the red heifer? Why do you have to explain? You just said there's no explanation. Why are you explaining? Because he's hinting there's no explanation why. What is Zohar saying? There's no explanation about the judgments. This is how it works. Okay? Why does it work like this? You can't ask that. Why? This is how the universe is wired. We were created as desire, beings of desire, for the Creator to give us his light. Why? I can't ask this question. I know it was created this way. Why did the creator need that? Of course, he doesn't need anything. So I cannot understand it. Of course, I cannot understand it. But the moment I understand that he created us as his vessels, now I can start to understand how it works. And what does it mean? So the Zohar is explaining to us why you're taking a red heifer, because in the language of symbolism of the Bible, of the Tanakh, when we go to the chapter 1 in Ezekiel, when you give some symbolism that we are talking about chesed, loving kindness, is the symbol of a Leo. We have a month of Leo coming. When you're talking about the symbolism of judgment, you have to the left the ox. Okay, that's judgment. The female of the ox is the cow. So that's judgment of judgment. And also when you're coming to the symbolism of colors, red is judgment. So red heifer is a triple judgment. Okay? Now, how do you make sure it's a judgment? That never had a yoke, never served anyone. Okay? This is a complete judgment. What do you do with that? How do you heal judgment? You take the same judgment. You don't deny it. You don't deny the desires. You know, many religions try to deny the existence of desire. No, you have to detach yourself from any desire. That's usually Eastern philosophies, many of them. Or you try to deny there's any kind of desire. That's the Western philosophies, especially European, you know, or even the Middle Eastern, a lot of false teachings like, no, you're not supposed to have any desire. You have to simply submit yourself to God and you have no desire whatsoever. You just do what you're being told. It's a lie. What happens when you deny your desires? What happens when you try to ignore them? They explode. You cannot suppress and ignore desires. That's exactly the law of the red heifer. You take the red cow, red heifer, which is the female ox, which is red, which never gave. And what you do with it? Fire, you fight with fire. You burn it into ashes. And you use those ashes because what you're doing there, you're doing judgment, which means you create a force, a magical force, in which you have the power to transform the original judgment. If you learn some homeopathy, it's very similar to the idea that similarities heal, which means instead, what you're doing, you awaken the judgment, but it is controlled, it's burned. So you're awakening it under control, which means, yes, I want to be happy. Why? The Creator created me to be happy. Very simple. However, if I want it for myself alone, that will kill me. That's judgment. That's death. Basically death. So that's symbolized by the red heifer. Judgment of judgment of judgment. It kills. How do you heal that? You take the same judgment. You do not ignore it. You do not detach from it. You cannot detach from it. It's so not wise. You cannot say, I don't want. You do want. Oh, if I try to ignore it, then it will disappear. It does not disappear. Learn human history. Humans are creatures of desires. Why? The Creator created us this way. You cannot just eliminate the most important basic force of reality. I desire. You cannot eliminate that. You cannot, by submission, by obedience, by whatever, by meditation, you cannot deny it's all false. And usually it erupts with huge forces of terrible death, killing, robbery, by the name of God, submission and denial. No, you take that power, the desire, you turn it around. You use it to give, to share, to care, and that's how you heal. You take the ashes of the red heifer, you put it in water. Water is a symbol of love and giving. Chesed, right column, left column. Now you sprinkle it on people that experience death. What is death? Death is the letter Tav. It's the end of story. Why the end of story? The Torah will tell you the end of story. Why is the end of story? Why does somebody die? Because he just aroused so much judgment. There's no place for God's light in his life. How do you heal that? Okay, again, the ashes of the red heifer. You take that desire to receive for oneself alone and you turn it into giving life to others. You're not giving up. Let's say you become a doctor. You become a great doctor. You have ambition and passion for success. How does your success look like? Saving people's lives. You can make a lot of money, nothing wrong about it. You can make a lot of fame, nothing wrong about it. As long as you're caring for people is genuine and authentic. You have both ends. Giving, caring, chesed, passion, ambition, greatness, and achievement. Leadership, everything. Making money. You just give service and helping people with their lives. They will give you money. They will respect you for that you're helping them. So your ambition is being satiated and you help so many people. This is the seed of the secret of the red heifer. You do not kill ambition. You do not kill the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. You just convert it into loving kindness. So now, if you have the Miriam and the story of getting the water out of the stone, and everybody, what is water? We said loving kindness. Yes, people have problem. They don't have water, they don't have food, they become desperate, and they forget that the more hungry, poor, victim they feel, the more judgment they experience. How do you change that? Water, love. You want to get out of your victim consciousness, out of your hunger and thirst, out of your misery, get out of your comfort zone, push out and do something for somebody else. That was a story of the life story of Miriam. That's the water coming out of the stone. Is that possible? Logically, no. Can you turn a selfish person into a loving, creative, contributing person in society? Of course you can. You have no other choice. Or otherwise, that person will die. Death is judgment. And come back to another lifetime and a lifetime of misery and pain and suffering and victimhood, till you say enough is enough. I want to choose the other kind of judgment, in which I am creating the judgment on my own judgment. I'm turning my negativity into my lowest aspect, selfishness, selfish ambition, whatever, a psychopath, all of those ideas, narcissism, hedonism, I turn it into, I'm not detaching from it. I'm not suppressing it. I'm using it. I'm converting the evil into good. That's the only way of tikkun. You cannot leave the evil untouched and unhealed. That's why we have so many symbols of healing. As I said many times, many years before, red heifer is exactly what vaccination is about. What is vaka? Vaccination comes from the word vaca. In Latin, it means a cow, because the first vaccination was done in Britain by a British doctor, Edward Jenner, by giving cowpox to people, and when they got cowpox, they were immune to smallpox. So the idea, so that's called a vaccination. What is the red heifer ashes? It is healing, vaccinating from death, from judgment. The death of righteous, we spoke about it before also, like Miriam and Aaron in this parasha, when they didn't die, they simply soared up to the heavens because they already mastered any kind of possible judgment. So when they take off, they create healing for us. That's why we read about their departure. And also the story with the snakes, the symbol of taking the snake and turn it into healing. 40 days from today, the 9th of Av, is the day of the snake. But in the Gematria, like the law of Hebrew numbers, the snake in Hebrew, Nachash, is 358. Mashi'aḥ, it says that Mashi'aḥ is born on the 9th of Av. Mashi'aḥ is also 358, which means what is Mashi'aḥ? What's the idea of the Messiah? When humanity, instead of fighting selfishness, fighting the snake, is taking the snake, the nun, and converting it into greatness, into self-inflicted judgment, but not judgment of suppression and denial. It's a judgment that I'm fighting my selfishness by creating good, not by denial, not by suppression. So I hope that gives us kind of a hint, kind of a tool. How do we fight the judgments of the coming to us? Not by denial, not by guilt and victimhood, but getting out of a comfort zone and being there for others. Therefore, also for the people, the sign of Cancer, which are extremely, extremely, extremely mentally, emotionally sensitive. When? When they are in judgment. With judgment. The bad side of the nun judgment. Me, I'm hurt, I feel like this, how do I feel, how do I feel, how do I feel? Not only people with the sign of Cancer are busy all the time, how do I feel? It's like we are in a whole society that is busy, how do I feel, and why do I feel like this, and let's talk about how I feel. It's only going to get it worse. Why? This is judgment. How do you heal that? Use the other side. Cancer is a water sign, sensitivity. Use all of those emotions for others, to help others. That will heal you. That will create the constructive judgment. That judgment that will build a new vessel of achievement that will take all the snake power, all the selfishness and negativity, and turn it into success story of achievement, of creating the vessel. How do you create a vessel? When you turn the selfishness into, I want to be happy. However, I need first to make other people happy. Love others as you love yourself. The moment you just go deep into the meaning of that commitment, you will realize this is the seed of Mashiach. This is converting the snake into Mashiach. After that, there's no snake to fight because it became all Mashiach. A lot of success for all of us. Thank you so much. Shavua Tov and Chodesh Tov.